When a judge refuses to listen to innocent black teen, then his mother's protest shakes the system. Adam Carter was dragged into a courtroom on a falsely accused of murder. The judge had already made up his mind. No evidence, no alibi, just a forced confession and a system designed to break him. But his mother, Lisa, wasn't about to let her son become another statistic. With nothing but her determination and a mother's unshakable love, she took on a corrupt system, unleashing a relentless fight for justice that would expose shocking truths and shake the very foundations of the courtroom. The night was cold. The street was dark and quiet. Adam Carter walked fast, his hands buried deep in his pockets. He pulled his hoodie over his head, trying to block out the chill. He had just bought some chips and a soda from the store, lost in thought about his future. He wanted to go to college. He wanted a good life. He wanted to take care of his little brother, Sam. He had big dreams. Then, suddenly, a loud noise shattered the silence. A police car stopped beside him, red and blue lights flashing, painting the empty street in a frightening glow. Adam's heart started pounding. "Hey, you. Hands up." Two police officers jumped out of the car, guns drawn. Adam froze, lifting his hands slowly. "What is happening?" he asked, his voice shaking. One officer, a tall man with a hard face, stepped closer. "You look like someone we're looking for. A man who robbed a gas station. A man who killed someone." "What?" Adam's eyes widened in shock. "No, that's wrong. I just went to the store." "Turn around," the officer barked. Adam wanted to explain, but before he could, the officers grabbed him. Cold metal cuffs snapped around his wrists. "You got the wrong person. I didn't do anything," he pleaded, but they didn't listen. They shoved him into the back of the police car. The door slammed shut. No one spoke as the car moved. The flashing lights reflected off the window, making Adam's face look unfamiliar. His heart raced. He tried to stay calm, but nothing felt right. Nothing made sense. At the station, the air smelled of old coffee and sweat. They led Adam into a small, gray room. One table, two chairs, a flickering light above. His hands were still cuffed. Minutes passed, then hours. Adam was hungry. His mouth was dry. No food, no water. No one spoke to him. Then, the door opened. A man walked in, tall, sharp-eyed, his face like stone. He pulled out a chair and sat across from Adam, dropping a folder on the table. "Adam Carter," he said in a deep, steady voice. "I am Detective Brad Kingsley. Do you know why you're here?" Adam shook his head. "No, sir." Kingsley gave a cold smile. "Don't lie, kid. You were at the gas station, right?" Adam frowned. "I don't know what you're talking about." Kingsley pulled out a photo and pushed it toward him. Adam's stomach twisted. A dead man. Blood on the floor. "You killed him, didn't you?" Kingsley's voice was calm, almost casual. "What?" "No." Adam's hands trembled. "I swear I wasn't there." Kingsley leaned back. "We have proof. A witness saw you running." "That's not true." Adam blurted. "I was at the store. Asked the cashier. Check the cameras." Kingsley shook his head. "We checked. The camera footage? Gone. The cashier? Says he doesn't remember." He crossed his arms. "You're in big trouble, kid." Adam's breath came fast. His head felt light. "Here's what's going to happen," Kingsley said, his voice calm but dangerous. "If you confess, maybe the judge will be nice. Maybe you get 15, 20 years. Adam's whole body turned cold. "But if you don't confess," Kingsley's eyes locked onto his, "you will never leave prison. Maybe you get the death sentence." The walls seemed to close in. "But I didn't do it." Adam's voice cracked. "Please, I didn't do it." Kingsley sighed, shaking his head like he was tired. "I don't want you to waste your life, kid. Maybe you got a little brother. Maybe your mother is waiting for you at home." Adam clenched his fists. Kingsley slid a paper toward him. "Sign this, and maybe you'll see them again." Adam stared at it. The hours dragged on. The walls felt smaller. His head ached. No lawyer. No food. No water. Only Kingsley. Watching. Waiting. Adam was exhausted. His body weak. His mind slow. The words echoed in his head. "Maybe you will see them again." The air in the courtroom was heavy. The walls were tall. The wooden benches felt cold. Adam sat between two officers. His hands were in handcuffs. His heart beat fast. He looked up at the judge, sitting high above. The judge's name was William Hayes. People said he was strict. He was especially hard on black men like Adam. Adam turned his head. His mother, Lisa Rock, sat in the front row. Her hand shook. Her eyes were red from crying. She wanted to help him, but she could not. Adam tried to be strong, but he felt small and scared. "All rise," the bailiff said. Everyone stood up. Judge Hayes looked at the papers in front of him. His face looked serious. It was like he had already made his decision. "The defendant, Adam Carter, is charged with robbery and murder," the judge said. "Bail is set at $1 million. Lisa gasped. People in the courtroom started whispering. $1 million was too much. Lisa jumped to her feet. "Your Honor, please. My son is innocent. We don't have that kind of money." The judge did not look at her. He banged his gavel. "If he's innocent, the trial will decide." Tears rolled down Lisa's face. The officers pulled Adam up. He felt weak. His mother reached for him, but the officers led him away. Lisa sat on her small couch. Her apartment was quiet. Her hands covered her face. Her chest felt heavy. She had never felt this kind of pain before. Her son was in jail for something he did not do. She had no way to help him. She had worked hard all her life. She cleaned houses and worked in restaurants. She did everything she could for Adam and his little brother, Sam, but a lawyer cost too much money. She could not afford one. She had no choice. She had to accept a public defender. She wiped her tears. She took a deep breath. She had to be strong. She would fight for Adam no matter what. Rachel Myers walked into her small office. It was messy. Papers were everywhere. She had too many cases. She sat down and opened Adam's file. Just another case, she thought. Another young man caught in the system. She had seen this too many times before. Then, she played the confession video. Adam sat in a small room. His eyes were red. He looked tired. The detective's voice was cold. "You signed this, and maybe you'll see your family again." Rachel frowned. Something felt wrong. The boy looked afraid. He looked lost. She had seen forced confessions before. She knew what they looked like. She closed the file. This case was different. She had to meet Adam. The jail smelled bad. The walls were gray. The guards did not even look at Adam as they led him to a small room. Rachel sat on the other side of the table. "Hi, Adam. I'm Rachel Myers, your lawyer." Adam sat down slowly. His face looked thinner than before. His hand shook a little. "I didn't do it," he said softly. Rachel nodded. "Tell me what happened." Adam's lips trembled. His eyes filled with tears. "They said they had proof," he whispered. "They said if I didn't confess, I'd get the death sentence. I was scared. I just wanted to go home." Rachel felt something deep in her chest. She had heard this story before. The system was cruel. It did not care about the truth. She leaned forward. "I believe you, Adam, and I will prove it." For the first time in days, Adam felt a little bit of hope. Rachel worked late into the night. She made phone calls. She looked for witnesses. She tried to get police records, but everything was blocked. She called the police station. "I need the security footage from the store where Adam was that night." Detective Kingsley's voice was cold. "The footage is missing." Rachel's grip tightened on the phone. "That's strange," she said. "Can't help you," Kingsley replied. Then he hung up. Rachel slammed the phone down. She knew what this meant. Someone was hiding the truth. But she was not giving up. Lisa walked into Rachel's office the next day. She looked tired. She held Sam's hand. "Please," Lisa said, "tell me you have good news." Rachel sighed. "The police won't give me the video, and the judge won't let Adam out on bail." Lisa sat down hard. "What do we do now?" Rachel looked at the files on her desk. "We keep fighting. We find a way." Sam looked up at her. His small voice broke the silence. "Is Adam coming home?" Rachel forced a smile. "I will do everything I can." But deep inside, she knew the road ahead was not going to be easy. Lisa sat on her bed, holding her phone. The news was on. The reporter spoke in a serious voice. 19-year-old Adam Carter is still in jail. He is accused of murder. His mother says he is innocent, but Judge William Hayes has refused to let him go free. Lisa turned off the TV. Her hands were shaking. She had waited for weeks. She had hoped the court would listen. But no one cared. The judge did not care. The police did not care. If she wanted justice, she had to fight for it. She opened her phone and started typing. "My son Adam is innocent. The police forced him to say he did the crime. They refused to check the cameras that show he was not at the crime scene. The judge will not let him go home. Please help me." Her hands shook as she hit post. She sent the message to activists. She shared it with everyone she knew. Within minutes, comments appeared. People asked questions. Some people told their own stories. Others wanted to help. The next morning, Lisa stepped outside. A woman stood in front of her building. holding a sign. Justice for Adam. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Then 2 more people arrived. Then 4 more. People were listening. Rachel sat at her desk. Her head rested in her hands. She had tried everything. The police would not help. The judge would not listen. The security video was missing. It felt like everyone had already decided Adam was guilty. She had to find another way. She picked up a stack of papers. They were old case files from Detective Kingsley. She flipped through them one by one. Same detective. Same stories. Young black men forced to confess. The more she read, the angrier she got. Many of these men were in jail for years. Some were still there. They had confessed, just like Adam. Rachel picked up her phone. "I need to see Adam," she told the guard when she arrived at the jail. Adam sat down across from her. He looked tired. His eyes were dark and empty. His hands shook as he held his water cup. "Adam," Rachel said gently, "did the detective tell you what would happen if you didn't confess?" Adam nodded slowly. His voice was weak. "He said I would die in prison." Rachel took a deep breath. "I believe you, but I need proof." Adam's hands curled into fists. "No one believes me," he whispered. "I tell the truth, but no one cares." Rachel leaned forward. "Ikare, and I will not stop until I prove it." For the first time in weeks, Adam looked hopeful. Rachel left the jail and drove to the gas station where the crime happened. She walked inside and looked around. A young woman stood behind the counter. She looked nervous. Rachel stepped closer. "Hi, I'm Rachel Myers. I'm Adam Carter's lawyer." The woman's face changed. "I don't want trouble. I just need to ask one thing." Rachel pulled out a photo of Adam. "Did you see this young man on the night of the murder?" The woman looked at the photo. She hesitated. Then she nodded. "Yes," she said quietly. "He was here. He bought some chips. He was polite. He said thank you." Rachel's heart beat fast. "What time was that?" The woman frowned, thinking, "I don't know exactly, but it was before I heard about the shooting." Rachel pulled out her phone. She checked the police report. The shooting happened at 10:32 p.m. If Adam was at the store before that, he could not be the killer. Rachel thanked the woman and walked out. She had proof. Now, she needed to find the real suspect. For the next few days, Rachel read every report. She checked every witness statement. Then she found something. A name. Jimmy O'Connell. His name was in a police report on the night of the murder. A witness had seen him near the gas station. But no one had questioned him. The police never looked at him. Rachel kept searching. She found a security camera video from another store near the crime scene. Her heart pounded as she watched it. A black car stopped at the gas station at 10:25 p.m. A tall man got out. It was Jimmy O'Connell. Rachel grabbed her keys and rushed out the door. Lisa stood outside the courthouse. A big group of people stood with her, holding signs. Some were chanting. Some were recording on their phones. Lisa held a microphone. "My son is innocent," she said. Her voice was shaking, but she did not stop. "The police are hiding the truth. The judge will not listen. My son needs your help." The crowd cheered. A reporter stepped closer with a camera. "Mrs. Rock, what do you want to happen?" Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "I just want my son to come home." Rachel ran into Lisa's apartment. "I found something." Lisa sat up quickly. "What is it?" Rachel laid the papers on the table. "A witness saw Adam at the store before the murder. And look at this." She played the video of Jimmy O'Connell at the gas station. Lisa covered her mouth. "That's the real suspect." Rachel nodded. "And the police ignored him." Lisa clenched her fists. "Because his family is rich." Rachel sighed. "I'm going to court. I'll tell the judge that Adam's confession was forced." 2 days later, Rachel stood in front of Judge Hayes. "Your Honor, I have proof that Adam Carter is innocent. I request that his confession be removed from the case." Judge Hayes barely looked at her. "Denied." Rachel's jaw tightened. "But, Your Honor, the confession was voluntary," the judge said. He banged his gavel. "Motion denied." Rachel's hands shook. Lisa watched from the back of the courtroom. Her chest burned with anger. The judge would not listen, but she would not stop. She would make sure the world knew the truth. The courtroom was quiet. Adam sat at the table with his lawyer. His hands were shaking. The jury sat in their chairs. They did not look at him. Most of them were white. Their faces did not show any emotion. The prosecutor stood up. He walked to the front of the courtroom. He buttoned his suit and looked at the jury. "This case is very simple," he said. "The defendant, Adam Carter, confessed. That is all you need to know." Rachel took a deep breath. She knew this would happen. The prosecutor did not talk about the missing video. He did not talk about the witness who saw Adam at the store. He only talked about the confession. The police did their job, the prosecutor said. They found the suspect. They got a confession. Now it is your job to bring justice. Rachel stood up. Your Honor, the defense calls Detective Brad Kingsley to the stand. Kingsley walked up slowly. He looked calm. He placed his hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then he sat down. Rachel walked closer. Detective Kingsley, when you arrested Adam Carter, did you have any real evidence? Kingsley smiled. We had his confession. Rachel nodded. Yes. But before that, did you have any proof? Did you have fingerprints? DNA? A witness who saw Adam at the crime scene? Kingsley's smile faded. Well, no, but... Rachel interrupted him. So, you had nothing? Only his confession? And that confession came after you kept Adam in a room for hours without food or water. Kingsley shifted in his seat. We followed the rules. Rachel took a step closer. Did you tell Adam that the security camera footage was gone? Kingsley nodded. But that was not true, was it? Rachel asked. The courtroom was silent. Rachel held up a piece of paper. This report shows that the security footage was deleted after Adam's arrest. Kingsley's face turned red. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Then, a voice spoke from the back of the room. I need to talk. Everyone turned around. A man in a brown suit walked forward. His hair was gray. His face was serious. Rachel turned to the judge. Your Honor, this is Daniel Ross. He is a former police officer. The judge sighed but nodded. Go ahead. Daniel sat in the witness chair. He cleared his throat. I worked with Detective Kingsley for 10 years, he said. I saw him force people to confess. I saw him lie in court. I stayed quiet for too long, but I will not stay quiet now. People in the courtroom started whispering. Daniel turned to the jury. Adam Carter did not do this crime. Detective Kingsley made sure the truth was hidden. Outside the courthouse, Lisa stood with a large crowd. People held signs. Some signs said, "Free Adam." Others said, "Stop corrupt cops." People were chanting. Some were recording on their phones. Lisa held a microphone. Her voice shook, but she spoke anyway. My son is innocent, she said. The police are lying. The judge will not listen. My son needs your help. The crowd cheered. A reporter stepped closer. Mrs. Rock, what do you want? Lisa's eyes filled with tears. I want my son to come home. Rachel rushed into Lisa's apartment. I found something. Lisa sat up quickly. What is it? Rachel laid some papers on the table. A witness saw Adam at the store before the murder. And look at this. She showed Lisa a video of Jimmy O'Connell at the gas station. Lisa covered her mouth. That's the real suspect. Rachel nodded. But the police ignored him. Lisa's hands became fists. Because his family has money. Rachel took a deep breath. I will ask the judge to throw out Adam's confession. 2 days later, Rachel stood in the courtroom. Your Honor, I have proof that Adam Carter is innocent. I ask that his confession be removed from the case. Judge Hayes barely looked at her. Denied. Rachel's hands clenched. But Your Honor, the confession was voluntary, the judge said. He banged his gavel. Motion denied. Rachel's stomach dropped. Lisa watched from the back of the courtroom. Her chest burned with anger. The judge would not listen. But she would not stop. She would make sure the world knew the truth. The next morning, everything changed. The district attorney ordered a new investigation. They checked the murder weapon, and they found fingerprints. They were not Adam's. They belonged to Jimmy O'Connell. Rachel sat in the courtroom. Her hands shook as she waited. In light of new evidence, Judge Hayes said, all charges against Adam Carter are dropped. Lisa gasped. She covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. The crowd outside cheered loudly. Adam closed his eyes. He had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was real, it felt strange. Judge Hayes looked at the papers in front of him. Mistakes were made, he said, but the system worked as it should. Rachel's hands tightened. He was lying. He was protecting himself. Lisa clenched her fists. Her son was free, but this was not justice. Kingsley, however, was not free. He was suspended, and a full investigation into his past cases began. He walked out of the courtroom, his face red with anger. Outside, Adam stepped into the sunlight. Lisa ran to him and hugged him tightly. People clapped. Some chanted his name. Cameras flashed. Rachel watched, smiling. But she knew this was not the end. A week later, she quit her job. She joined a group that helped innocent people in jail. Lisa became a leader in the fight for justice. She spoke at events. She helped other mothers with sons in jail. And Adam? He told his story. He wanted to help others like him. But he also knew the truth. The fight was not over. Many others were still in prison. And the system was still broken.